them snacks.
What it do, snackers, snackettes, and snack X's? It's your boy Gage. I'm here with Sin and special guest Jerry, the franchise Gaylord, and it is time for another episode of Spoiler Boys.
Spoiler boys.
Spoiler boys.
My man,
Hey,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? We here, triple tag team champs, to spoil episode 6 of X-Men 97, Life Death Part 2. Before we get too deep into it, Jerry, one time before we get too far into this episode, just do me a favor and tell people, where they can go so they can follow you and so forth and see what's happening with the franchise's exploits.
For sure. Y'all can find me on Instagram, the franchise art, or you can just Google Jerry Gaylord. I'll pop up. I'm there. Hit me up and say, hey. That's
There
me.
it is. Make sure if you hit him up and say, hey, you let him know that you know who he is because you was watching Spoiler Boys. Jerry, last week we had a really good conversation. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Before we even go too far into that, let me just say, last week we also had Adam Butler on.
Correct.
Adam is not here with us because he's a little under the weather. So we just want to wish him a speedy recovery, and we're looking forward to seeing him
Absolutely,
on the next
brother.
episode.
Absolutely.
Episode 7. But Jerry, this episode is an episode that you did some heavy work on as a storyboard artist. Is that correct?
That is true. Yeah, this was actually my last episode on the show.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's dig into that a little bit. What are
part 1 and part 2? Makes sense. Okay, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are some of the major plot points or things that you had maybe the most put the most work in on?
I think this for this episode, I had a little bit of Storm, and then I had maybe more to do with the Shi'ar and Professor X. So yeah, like the Milky Way ghetto that was in my boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your handiwork in that one. Okay. Okay.
We got to talk about that, my guy. We're definitely gonna speak on that. Is it surreal, like knowing that this was the last episode that you worked on? Is did it feel a certain way as you were doing that, knowing that this was kind of the end of that run for you with the show?
Well, you know what? Like, I think I'm not entirely sure. I knew it was going to be my last episode at the time because I was. I think I've said before that Marvel had me contracted to work on another show, so that was why I had to leave. And so
and that show was.
Oh, I can't even. They won't let me talk about
it. Right now, chill.
I just swing for the fences.
They try to catch. Don't do that. Don't try to catch my man. We got to go in and redact the parts of the episode. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Marvel got snipers, dog. What you doing?
Yeah. I still got good relationships at Marvel. But yeah, so I was I was working on this episode, and then I think it was really like towards the very end of it, to where I was about to turn in boards is where I found out I was going to be leaving. So it was I was having a great time, and it was tough to leave the show because it was just it was really rolling. I was turning in some really fun work, and then you gotta kind of hit reset and like figure out like what's going
Someone
on.
was detected at your front door.
Sorry about that. You gotta figure out what's going on elsewhere. Yeah. No, we're good. Very good.
So I guess my question to you about that, I'm gonna ask the question I think anybody who's watching would be wondering is,
Mm-hmm.
did you get to see the whole script for the season, or do you only see the scripts for the episodes that you're working on?
I only saw scripts for episodes I was working on. Like I think there was I think there were there's like a I don't know, like a Bible for the series that I didn't read that. And then but like I was kind of talked through it, right?
Okay.
And then you would get the episodes, the scripts as they come, and they change, right? So like, you know, uh what might have been going on when I started on episode 1, by the time I got to episode 6, like things change.
Yeah.
So and then even this episode in particular, there were a lot of changes. So
Okay.
there, like I think there were changes while we were boarding, and then I know there were changes to like from what I left to
Right.
what I saw on screen. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, I want to dig into, let's start digging into the episode. Um, Here's what I want to start with. I want to start with the intro. I don't think I've given enough credit to how the intro changes prior to every episode. So, like, if you're
Hmm.
watching this show and you're skipping the intro, um, you're making a mistake, I think. Well, I'll
Yeah.
say this. You could be making a mistake. There are changes that are happening. They're not necessarily subtle, but they are what feel like important changes to the intro that if you're paying attention and you care about the show, you will notice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, you know, Charles Xavier had been an important part of the intro to this show from the very beginning of the old episodes. He gets removed, and they add in Magneto, and Jean Grey in earlier episodes has the pulled back Madeline Pryor hair, and then it switches to the Jean Grey full laid out hair. So very subtle, you know what I mean? You might not even notice it, but characters kind of come and go from these intros. Like you don't see Bishop in the
Hmm.
intro necessarily because he's not in that episode or whatever it is. He's off doing something different. And in this intro, I want to start with the things that made me upset.
I said this to say that.
Yes. In this intro, they do a full-on joint for Nightcrawler.
They do.
My man has a whole and I was watching. I was like, oh snap!
That's
It's
your guy.
go time.
Yeah.
My boy is here. And guess what?
Not anywhere to be seen.
Not a night crawling through a single board, Jerry. Not a single not a speck of Nightcrawler is only in the intro and bamfed his way through the entire joint. I guess the next episode, bro.
That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
If the intro to the next episode, if he's not in that intro, I'm calling shenanigans.
Is that your new what's her name? Witness protection?
Oh, definitely witness protection, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Burnt me up. Like, cause the episode was going on and on. I'm like, no, we never made it back to Earth. I don't know what's happening here.
So
And
I think so right when I was leaving Marvel, I was like, I reached back out to the X-Men. I was like, hey, like, I don't, it was my last day. And they were like, hold up, wait a minute. And they pulled together like a quick meeting for me. Like, everybody came through like a quick Zoom, and they showed me a super cut of all the intros. So
Oh.
I was like, oh snap, like this is gonna be crazy.
That's
Mhm.
dope.
Yeah, so I think like you mentioned the changes. I think the changes in the intro are significant. First of all, I think it's it's to show you, like, when we were kids, you wouldn't skip the intro, right? Like when
You
you were
didn't have a
watching the
choice.
show, like
Yeah,
you
no
you didn't
choice.
have a
Yeah.
choice. But I think like watching the intro was really exciting. Like the music
Yeah.
comes on, you watch it, you're excited. And
Yep.
then like later in life, like I know I bought like the original first season on Blu-ray or DVD, whatever it was, and like you would watch it, I wouldn't skip the intro. And then when it came
Mhm.
out on Disney Plus, like
Mhm.
I still wouldn't skip the intro. And then like internally, like we will watch the episodes like during the week on the
Yeah.
show, like as a unit, like the old show, just to make sure like we all were refreshed and
Mm-hmm.
had like the flavor of the show, like as we were working on the new stuff. And we will watch like two episodes, but we wouldn't skip the intro. So I think
Yeah.
the the idea is that people want the intro. We as fans wanted to see the intro, but now
Mhm.
you watch it and you're rewarded, for
Yeah.
watching the previous episodes, and then boom, like you see the intro, and then it's like, oh, what's new and exciting? Because there's more more changes than just like Nightcrawler or Bishop not being there. Like there's
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
like all
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
fun
There
stuff.
there are scenes that are like technically scenes from the original show that
Yeah,
are like redone
yeah,
in the intro. Yeah. I mean it's. I mean I love it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like I enjoy it.
yeah,
So it's like I just won't skip the intro. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
that's a
saying? I
huge
yeah,
thing
might
with.
skip.
I said
Go ahead,
I
Sam.
said that's a huge thing with like anime too. Like skipping intros is like, unless the intro is garbage, like skipping intros is like no. When I try to do it on Thriller Park, I get yelled at. Like like listen to this 20 times. I'm trying to get to the show now.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
it's look, this is a show that's filled with Easter eggs, whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not, right? And a lot of times Easter eggs are just there for the people who already know, right? Just little subtle things that you can catch, just like seeing some of the like certain mutants that were in the last episode, that kind of thing. But definitely the intro has Easter eggs, which just didn't really used to be a thing. You know what I mean for the shows like that. So, I love that they do that, but I was harmed. You know what I'm saying? Like I was harmed. Like it just
well,
they like don't do that. Don't listen. Don't try to excuse the. You know what I'm saying? That's a blatant disregard for my Easter egg hunting ability. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
a blatant disregard for how much I care about what's to come. So I'm watching this joint and I'm like, I know what the name of the episode is, and I know what it's supposed to be about, but clearly, because they've
Something
changed some
else is gonna
things. Like
happen.
this,
Yeah.
obviously, this joint doesn't follow exactly what happens in the comics, but like, I'm like, all right, they put my man front and center. It's going down. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to get some of that Kurt Wagner. No,
I,
Nope.
no,
I feel you. I feel
Straight
you.
blue balls.
Oh
that's
no,
cheap.
oh no. I
Like
listen,
Nightcrawler
listen.
balls.
Right.
I feel you. I get it. I think it just certain characters is a lot of characters missing from the intro now. A lot of a
Yeah, I
lot of
Yes,
know.
we got a lot of
I knew I
blank
wasn't gonna see
spaces.
Candace this week. That would hurt.
right.
What I mean? I saw this one meme. It was like the first panel was the Nightcrawler from the intro, and then
Mhm.
the next two was like Thanos and Baby Gamora. And she was like, "How much did it
Mhm.
cost?" He's like, "Everything."
Yeah,
You know
see,
what I
that's
mean?
beautiful. I love it because I was okay with Gambit not being in this joint because I wasn't expecting him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But don't bro. Listen, don't tease me.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
So let me
I
just,
feel
all
you.
right. So, like, for the most part, my beef is out of the way because that's probably my biggest beef with this
Uh-huh.
episode is that specifically. So,
All
like, for
right,
the most part,
I apologize.
thanks.
I
I
apologize.
take, you know what I mean? On behalf of the
Yeah.
team, You know what I mean? You just going, that's cool. Here's what I do want to say. Boy, they be dropping. It's so many people. There are so many characters in this joint. Sin. I don't know if you remember how I feel about Deathbird.
I don't remember, but yep, she was in here.
And more importantly,
Deathbird.
That boy Gladiator.
Fire. Putting
that
in work.
Boy Gladiator.
That boy good.
Boy. Jerry, did you have anything to do with Gladiator scenes?
I did in the fight in the end.
Mm-hmm.
The fight in the end
putting them little Superman touches in that thing, boy.
Yeah. A lot of a lot of that stuff got cut though. Oh my goodness! Like I can't wait till I can. Yeah, like watching the whole episode. I think a lot of it got cut for time. So I think I like when I'm able to show my boards. Like oh man, this listen when it showed up for me. First of all, the part you're talking about in the beginning, Marvin Britt, he boarded that stuff, and man, he like the boards for that section were incredible, and even that got cut, right? So like the scene didn't get cut, but like a lot of the stuff that he put in got cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he really like just put the love into it.
Look, let's just start with a war. We in space, we busting lasers at each other. What's going on? Shi'ar and the Kree doing what they do, having a battle. We get the homie Ronan the Accuser.
I was so wrong.
You know what I mean?
Let me just be done with Ronan. I'm tired of seeing him.
He can get defeated with dancing. Hammer time. Not the Deathbird. She like, man. She put her foot on his face and drew blood, bro.
Yeah, she did. I love that you can like these characters would show up in the old show. I love that like today, like these characters show up and it's like, oh wait a minute, what's going on? Like, I feel like the more casual Marvel fan might be like, oh wait, I know that guy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely for somebody like Ronan. I just saying his name, hearing his name, be like, oh, wait, is that the same? Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look, we're talking about the great amount. Like, there's some the Marvels, Miss Marvel, and kind of stuff being pulled in a little bit here. Deathbird shows up, bust the windows out your car. Bust the window, chucking cats. You know what I mean? They run over and shut the windows like they ready to fight, and they are not. The Kree are not ready to fight. They are all going to lose, like real bad. And
they got walked down. Yeah.
What? Yeah. Gladiator, dog. Let me just say. That's the thing. I like if for people who are not familiar with Gladiator, it's his abilities are a little bit strange. Like he's basically like a Superman. However, like his abilities are increased based on him having a purpose. So he is driven by whatever that purpose is, and that like his abilities are tied to him having a purpose. So clearly he has a purpose. She tells him to do a thing. My man's like, bet, and can do a thing, can do the thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Is it not his self-confidence?
It is. It's like it's like a combination of like his drive to do the job, quote unquote, and then the confidence he has in doing the job, like is how his abilities are tied. Like it's not. I mean, he's not.
Yeah. So like basically, like I've always thought that was really cool. Like I feel like he he's this character. He's got all this power, and all this bravado, and it's like super necessary for him to get the job
Right.
done. Like,
Right.
definitely don't play no Rocky music in his vicinity
Because
because
he's going down.
yeah, don't do that. Don't play The Last Dragon.
No,
don't do
not
it.
at all.
Nothing motivational.
Yeah, I really think there's a really cool story to be told around him and the way that his power set works and like what he's capable of doing. But even more importantly than that, Deathbird threatens Ronan and says like, yo, all your people gonna die. So you can save them. You know what I'm saying? And who do we pan to as the person who is threatening
Oh, my bad.
these creatures? You're all good. It is none other than Vulcan. Now it just got complicated. Because Vulcan, if you don't know, is one of the Summers brothers. This is Cyclops' brother. This is his secret brother. And Slim has powers. Slim got power. And so now the dynamic of everything, I'm like, oh, are we doing this? And they don't, it's the thing. They don't make a big deal about nothing. But they clearly show you that he's a threat. Like he's the person that she's saying, go ahead, take all these guys out. And to make it brief, like after several retcons that have to do with the Summers family tree, because that joint is probably the most convoluted family tree in comic book history. When Scott's parents were quote unquote killed in a plane crash, turns out they weren't killed in the plane crash. They were attacked by the Shi'ar, kidnapped by the Shi'ar. His father becomes Corsair.
Right.
He gets basically sold into slavery. They take his mom. The Ken, who is also talked about in this episode, is like gonna rape her. He stops that from happening. Forms the Starjammers with other slaves or people who were captured with him. Well, we've seen the Starjammers in the show, like they've been in the show before.
Yeah.
But they never really touch on the fact that it's Scott's father. They really don't talk like Havoc's in the show, but they don't really talk about Havoc being his brother. It's like they don't know that either.
No, they skipped that part.
Oh wait, no. There's in the original show, there is an episode where Corsair,
they know about he knows about Corsair
and he confronts him. Yeah, they have that conversation.
But he doesn't know about Havoc. Or at least they don't say anything.
He doesn't know that Havoc is his brother. Yeah.
Right. And Vulcan is so when basically Scott's mother was saved from being raped, she was killed. But apparently she was pregnant at the time. And the Shi'ar harvested the fetus and then basically did stuff to it and raised it. And now there's a Vulcan. And there's a bunch of other stuff that happens with him coming back to Earth and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot to that. So it's just like, bro, he's on screen for like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, they just showed like 20 years worth of comic backstory in like a 6-second spot. Like I don't, and then it's like it's just gone. And I'm like, they could do nothing with this, or they could do everything with it.
Excitement level rising. I'm just saying. My excitement.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, because it's so important to like what we talked about last week with all of what Scott is going through.
Yeah.
On a mental and personal level.
Mm-hmm.
You have to imagine that we talked about it last week. What Scott's going through mentally, being lost, the team getting left to Magneto. He's lost, I feel like, some of that trust in the professor. And now for the professor to be alive
that to me
and well and gone for like a year, and he's like, I need to go back. Hey, dog. If you don't take that psychic connection you have and connect yourself to these children.
Right. If Jean Grey can do it.
My man just out here walking and getting married, and I'm telling you, he's crushing.
I was a little mad, but I was like, I get it. Like,
do you get it though?
Like, look, everything going on back at home. You left them down there, they dying. You up here getting cheeks. Like,
it's still a war.
It is, but it's like you said, you could at least put a call. They think you're dead. Like, you could have. Y'all got this from here. I'm gonna go off and do my thing. Like, I trust y'all to have this for now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to hang a little bit on what's going on with Xavier and the Shi'ar and all of that before we get into Storm and what's going on with her, because they go back and forth a little bit, you know, with some of that. But I just figured let's do one and then do the other. So, Lilandra interrupts Deathbird's warring activities to make the announcement that, like, I'm finna get married. I'm about to bring me a Terran. I feel like that's a derogatory term. It's definitely a derogatory term. It's definitely a derogatory term.
No, so I feel like, to me, I feel like that's like the PC term.
Yeah, it is.
They say a bunch of other stuff.
You're right. That is a PC term, but it is still a derogatory. It's like people saying DEI now. It's like it's like an acceptable way of saying these natives, like, you know what I'm saying, or like you're not necessarily calling them. I won't say it. Like, you're not necessarily calling them something that they, but like you're still calling them like lower forms of.
Yeah.
I mean, what did Deathbird call the Milky Way?
Straight
ghetto.
Up ghetto.
So, yeah,
the ghetto, bro. Like,
it's like,
hold on a second. What is you talking about? It was and like, man, listen, she said that joint. Like, watch me push some buttons real quick. It's like she was just like, I'm gonna make this little low life Terran. I'm gonna make him mad. Then they're gonna see him for the monkey he is. That's basically they was like, these sapient, like they come, bro.
Yeah.
Wait. I was thinking Freezer when you say that.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Relax for a second. You being real disrespectful right now, and like Charles just eating it. He just taking it, right? But I love her, and Lilandra's like, he's not like other Terrans, and I'm like, ooh, this is like, you can't do that. Like, y'all are getting real.
Watch the wording here.
Yeah. I mean, he is one of them, but he's not like.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's no regular, which is crazy, because then to have Deathbird go on like a rant of like he's not even one of the good like regular humans, it's something wrong with him. Even they consider mutants to be a lower level Terran. She like he's below the dirt.
Yeah. Actually, I think that was a different character that said that. That was somebody else like putting their 2 cents in. They was like, yeah, she's right.
You right. That was one of the guys that was sitting at the top or whatever. Yeah, like it's kind of crazy, right? That then it's like, all right, well, here's the deal. You can renounce everything you've ever known, have your memory wiped, forget all of that. Like, we about to just, it's got to be like they never existed. You have to act. And there's like a much larger, like behind the words that are being used and what's being said, there is this, okay, we will allow you to come up here where we feel like we're way better, but you can't talk like that no more. You can't, like, you have to assimilate to what we are and who we are in order for you to be acceptable. You're not even a part of society if you can't do these things. Like, you're not even base. And for him to just be like, nah, but like all y'all do is just like run around and then like by fear assimilate other people's stuff and then force them into your joint. And I'm like, my man is really just talking about America. Like, he's just talking about like
what you just left.
Bro,
yeah,
it is
literally what you just left back home on Earth.
Yeah,
and he was really
but see, I think I like that's why it's cool, right? Because he's not saying Earth is doing it right. He's just like that's what I'm fighting at home, and y'all are like that's y'all whole thing. This
it's
is
no
exactly
different.
what y'all do.
Yeah,
this is exactly what y'all do. I've seen it before.
Basically telling them you're not any better than we are. You're just using like, but essentially he's telling them like, yeah, you chop them off at the knees, then you force them to assimilate, and then they become like, oh well, we're better, you know what I mean, or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, you force that assimilation.
I actually like that.
Learn everything you can. It's very literally like the pilgrims come here, learn how to live off the land. Like, they was dying like left and right. Learn how to live off the land, shuck corn, like all of that, and then just be like, but y'all are so primitive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you only survive because of what we showed you, because of what we taught you. Things that you don't know how to do, you couldn't do, you weren't unable to survive. We showed you how to survive. And now you're going to take that knowledge and act like it was always your knowledge. You know what I mean? And go, and that's like, it is a real thing. And it's subtle, but he's saying it. He's saying it like, I'm not willing to give up. He was willing to give up for a second. And go ahead and say why, Sam.
The X-Men. He couldn't give him up.
Nah, he was about to give it up for them cheeks.
Facts, he was.
He was.
He was still going to. He was. I mean, he stepped up and spoke his mind, which like he, I think
he took him to school.
When you're in that kind of situation, like you will ultimately reach a point where you're like, oh, okay, that's it. Like that's enough.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and so
like you're gonna say what you're gonna say. He wasn't ready to come home until he had until he like he synced up. Because like you said, like you're like, oh, why aren't you linked up with them? Why can't you feel? But that's what that was. It's like
the service came back in range.
No, well, it's like this episode is happening at the same time as 5. So it just happened, and then he felt it. It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like all those voices cried out and were silenced.
He was ready to go once that happened. Like, I got to leave. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Nah, things is wrong down there. I gotta go.
I gotta go back.
I thought it was interesting that he sensed Gambit, but instead of Magneto. Thought that was interesting. You figure since him and Magneto have this long history and this deep connection between them.
Yeah, but Magneto's not one of his children.
True.
I think that's the difference. Yeah. Like he is, when it happens to him, he's literally in school. He has taken over their minds and put them in school.
Which was hilarious to me.
Like, oh yeah, when he stuffed that apple in that bird mouth.
Enough of this. Everybody go to class.
Yeah. He went Joe Clark on him for a second. Like,
yeah, he did.
He but it's a callback to what was said to him earlier when he was talking to Alondra, and she was saying, like, the whole point of being a teacher is to make sure that your students learn how to fly without you. Like, they're able to take care of themselves. And then his response to that was, yeah, but only once you're sure you don't have anything left to teach them. Right. And so in that moment, he's now taking those lessons and applying them to Lalandra and her people, showing them what it is they've gone through. And as he's teaching those lessons and it's coming back to him, why what he was doing was so important, why who he is who he is, and he shouldn't give up. He reconnects and he's thinking about his students. He's not thinking about technically his parallel, which is what Magneto was, which is the difference between what Magneto is and what Scott is. It's why Magneto would get chosen to lead the X-Men and Scott wouldn't. Because the reality of it is, it took me, I had to rewatch our episode from last week to really realize why I don't like Scott Summers. Because I know I was giving my man some love. But I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. And again, I said like he feels like Leonardo to me. The problem I have with Scott Summers is that Scott Summers is not a leader. He's a soldier. He just does whatever Xavier says or whatever he thinks Xavier wants, and that's it. He don't question nothing. If he does start to question something, he will finish his own questions by saying, this is what the professor would say do, or this is what the professor would do. But he does not lead with that ability. He does not lead with compassion. He does not lead with purpose. He is simply blindly following the person who he believes is the person who's the right person to follow. And when it all goes to hell, he just follows Magneto. Like he does the same thing. And that is my problem with Scott Summers. He has never really been a leader, leading from a place of here's what we need to do and here's why, because leaders lead with that. This is why we need to do this way. So him not being able to understand the relationship between Charles and Magneto, and that they're both technically after the same things, but doing it in a different way, he doesn't understand that. He only sees Magneto as the enemy because he knows Xavier says we have to stop him. So that's all he's thinking. He's a soldier taking orders, and that's it. And he may be the person who the professor says, you're in charge of this mission. But he's never really been the leader of the team.
Yeah.
Because Xavier was always the leader of the team. He may have been running the mission, and that is, here's your directives, here's your parameters,
soldier,
follow the directives and the parameters, and that's what he does, right? And when anything goes awry, he's never really been the person who can shift on a dime and be like, okay, we need to adjust and do this. It's always somebody else on the team.
That's why Gambit and Wolverine frustrate him so much.
Exactly.
See, I can't get I feel you. I definitely think that's a legit read. Like I definitely think that's a legit read. I don't agree with it. Like I feel like the reason why I feel like the reason why Cyclops, because he was going to leave the X-Men. Like he was ready to go. He was like, I'm a family man. He was like, I'm about to have his baby. Like he was like, after this last mission, you know, it was good. And I feel like that's what the first episode was about, is like showing that Scott Summers was leading the X-Men. The things that they were doing were Scott Summers, those were his objectives. He said, okay, so there's this new thing popping up and they're kidnapping mutants. I'm not about that. This is what's going to happen. He's frustrated with the X-Men because, you know, he feels like they're, you know, sort of like losing focus, like everything is everything when it's not. And
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's his platoon.
That's the problem. They're losing focus because he is not the leader. They don't so they don't respect him as a leader. So they don't listen to him because they all know what Xavier's directives would be and what he would do, but they don't listen to Scott. If Scott is the person who's supposed to be able to step into those shoes and lead that team, the first thing he has to do is be able to command the respect of the people who are on the team he's supposed to lead. He doesn't have their respect because he's never actually been the leader.
I disagree with that, because I'm like, when at the end of the day, Cyclops is like, you and you in the Blackbird, we out. And they did, right? And I feel like
100%. That's leading the mission. That's not leading the team. I'm serious about that. It's like here's the thing. As a team, they decided they needed to go do something. That was not a Scott decision. That was a them decision. In the field, like, all right, it's time to go. The mission has started. Okay, you and you do this. You and do this. It's not that he's got court vision. It's the difference between being the coach and being like the player coach. Like he is a player on the field who can call shots on the floor as the action is happening, but he's not the coach sitting on the sidelines who can do both. Like he's not that person. So like they do respect his court vision, meaning that, okay, he sees the field and understands how to be an operative, what it's going to take to win this objective right here, right now in what we're doing. But he absolutely always fails to see what the actual bigger picture is. He doesn't really know how that battle in particular plays into the larger war. Only Xavier knew that. And the reason why only Xavier knows that is because Scott doesn't have the fortitude to walk into a room with Xavier and say, tell me what we're actually doing. What is it that we're actually going after? Like these lessons that you're teaching to us, where are we going with it? Because he doesn't question those things. He just does what he's told. So because of that, somebody like a Wolverine who doesn't just do what he's told, right? It's the same issues that a lot of people have with Captain America, right? He until he decided he wasn't going to continue to follow blindly. Then once he realized and kind of woke up and was like, I'm just doing whatever they say, that doesn't mean that what I'm doing is right. Cyclops doesn't necessarily have that. Like the moral compass that exists in Scott's head is really just about doing the thing that he was told to do and getting it done, because that is how you get kudos. Accomplish the mission. This is what the mission is. Let me go accomplish the mission. Regardless if it's right or wrong or whatever. We just side with him because we feel like as the readers, the mission that they're on is the right one. We've been told and taught Xavier's way of doing it is the right way of doing it. But think of the sheer number of people after Black Panther who were like, nah, dog, Killmonger was right. They're all wrong. Killmonger wasn't right in what he was doing. In what he was saying, Killmonger was absolutely right. Yo, you have all these resources and you're not sharing your resources. You have all these opportunities to save all these people and you're not saving these people. What he did when he got control of it was, rather than share those resources, he started a war. I'm about to ship guns to everybody. They're never going to do this to us again. That's very Magneto of him, right?
Yeah.
So it's not wrong. What he did with the power was wrong.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. It's Thanos getting the glove, and instead of snapping his fingers and doubling the resources so everybody could eat and nobody would die, he snaps and gets rid of half the population. That's a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Scott's in that same place to me, right? It's not that he's not a dope fighter, that he's not super powerful, that like they don't respect him on. Like if you see Scott Summer on the field, you know it's going down. You better be ready for whatever is coming, because it's coming, right? But like as a team leader, he's never as the actual leader of the team. He's never performed. He's never.
So
performed.
I think I conflate my version of Cyclops, like the way I see the character, with what is like where he is right now in the show.
Sure.
Because I feel like where he is right now in the show is the things that you're talking about. But what I like is him there are moments where he has started to question the professor, and then I feel like he's learned some things from Magneto. So like him kirking out on was it Trish Tilby?
Yeah.
And then also wait, she's the reporter, right?
She's the reporter, yeah.
And then also the lady from the CIA.
Like
he kirks out on her a little bit in the first episode, but like those things to me show that Cyclops is like moving in the right direction, and his frustration and anger with the professor, like those things are the things that like it's his character growth from the original show to like where he's at right now to wherever he ends up.
Can I tell you that I don't disagree with you technically? However, I think the difference in what you're talking about is there's a difference between a character arc and character growth. He's on a character arc, right? That arc technically ends up leading him into a place where he sides with Magneto and is like, you know what? Nah, Magneto was right. Like, they're never going to accept us. They're never going to let us. And he does end up in the long run, at least in the comics, going more down that path, right? That whole place where they end up in like Avengers versus X-Men is him snapping and being like, yep, me, Magneto, White Queen, let's get it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because they not ever going to accept us. And if these humans get in the way, these humans get in the way, they got to go. They not, these Terrans get in the way, they got to go. Like, he does go on that path. And I think that path, again, is more about an arc than it is growth. Because now, if he is growing, and here's the thing, that's only because I see it as an arc instead of growth, only because he so long was in the shadow of the professor and fought so long and so hard for the things that he said the professor said were the things that were the right things, that immediately once he goes in the other direction, right, he's growing towards Magneto. And to me, that's not growth. That's actually falling back, because all the things you've been fighting against, all the reasons why you've been saying Magneto's not right, and we have to do this a different way, and we have to maintain peace, and we can't treat them a certain way because it's just that they're afraid and they fear us. He let all that go. All of the teachings that were the teachings of Charles Xavier, he did not grow into the leader that Charles Xavier was. He grows into another follower of Magneto. And that still puts him in a position where he's following. And that,
I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, Jerry, you write it. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. You're right. Because like all of this stuff, I'm like, yeah. But in my head, that's not how it goes.
But that's how it goes. Like, that's how it goes.
Not in Jerry's book, no. No,
Jerry's book. My head canon is completely different. It's completely different.
All of the things that you love about Cyclops are actually things I love about Cyclops. And I didn't mean for this to turn into like another Cyclops 101. But again, because I do think he's an incredible warrior. I do, like, if I'm picking teams, I put Cyclops on my team in a heartbeat. Him and Cap. Matter of fact, Leonardo too. I take all them dudes. You know what I'm saying? And put them on the squad, because when it's time to go to war, they gonna be that thing. And I know whatever I say to do, they're gonna go get it done. Period. You understand what I'm saying? And so there's a certain level of respect for that I can't take away. However, would I respect him more as a leader than I respect Storm? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wait,
do I ever think
who said that? I didn't say that.
No. I'm just saying, like but the reason why isn't just because Storm will beat the brakes off of Scott Summers. It's also because she's actually a respected leader. And I mean, like, if Storm says, yo, this is what we need to do, people are like, all right, bet. There's nobody questioning Storm and her sense of her sense of duty is tied to her sense of morality. Cyclops' sense of duty is tied to Charles Xavier. That's it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what he says, so that's what I'm gonna do. And again, it's blind. And again, Leonardo's the same way. Whatever Splinter says, that's what we doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we gonna do it. And that's why they like, you're just a Boy Scout. That's that, Wolverine gets given a job to go do. He completes that job. There's no way Wolverine's coming back fail. Like, it doesn't happen. He's not failing. However, he's gonna adjust on a dime, do the things that need to be done in order to get the job done. And Sin don't like Wolverine either. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, that's just because he got too much power. This is kind of a Superman thing. But like, but the difference between them is this show right now is showing me personally that we are leaning much more towards a Scott that is ready to become that Magneto underling that leads the entire MCU into Avengers versus X-Men. This is where we are. He's on that path, on that journey, where my man is just like, nah, dog, anybody can get it. We are superior beings. Magneto was right. And that's what we doing. And anybody who's not with me, you against me. That includes other mutants. I don't care who get in the way. And
I hope they go that route. Because I would love to see that animated. Yeah.
Go back and really look at that Avengers vs. X-Men. Slim was snapping, dog.
So you know what? I've only read pieces of Avengers vs. X-Men. And I'm not fully on board with that Cyclops. Like, I get it. Where he ends up after that, I enjoyed. And I think the Krakoa era Cyclops to me is a lot more like comfortable in that ease with himself. I know we getting into the weeds with Cyclops,
It's
but
cool. It's
you know,
cool.
like
Because the show is
there's
technically about Cyclops.
yeah, well, like so in the I think is it the Ace? Is it the Ace of? It's the story where Apocalypse meets all his kids from the other thing, and like at the end of that story, I don't think this is spoilery at all, but like at the end of that story, like everything is like falling apart. Cyclops is not even like he is not even one of the X-Men involved in the story. And at the end of it, he comes to the council, which has Professor X and
Yeah.
Magneto, and he's like, "Hey, this is what's happening. They need our help." And Professor X and Magneto, the whole council, they're like, "Yeah, no, we can't do that." And then he says, "That's cool. I'm not really asking for permission." He's
Right.
like,
I'm about to just go do it.
"I'm the leader of the X-Men. I'm out." It's
And
like that's Cyclops to me.
And listen, but you know how long it took Slim to get there?
I mean, he
had to lose it.
But
I knew he had it in him. I knew he had it in him. I knew it. I was there. I was like, Cyclops, I got you. Look, you're gonna get there.
I mean, again, look, I think the direction right now, like what they're doing, it feels like they are setting, like they just, like, again, this episode, they put Storm on the, like, dog, I can get my powers back myself. It's all in my mind, bro. Like I'm on the what? Let me have some diversity real quick. Let me show y'all that I am a black woman who can run through diversity like it's nothing. It might hold me down, pin me down for a minute, but I'm about to be that strong, resilient. Here it is for all of you in all of its glory.
I'm gonna kick my demons out. I'm gonna take care of my man. I'm gonna get my powers back. I can do it all on myself.
Shorty, she got so powerful, her new outfit just appeared.
It just showed up.
Yeah,
it's like black excellence. Yeah, black girl magic.
Yeah, grew her
shenanigans, bro. Shenanigans. Just like what this
with the Superman-esque flight sequence. Flying everything so fast with the boosters and everything. I was like, oh, this is clean.
Jerry, I saw that joint and was like, Jerry definitely boarded this joint. Great. Superman looking at my reflection, seeing my shadow beneath me. Like I was like, oh, Jerry is all over this joint.
He think we don't see this. We don't see his pin all over this one.
I would have loved that. That was not me though.
I'm shocked, bruh.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that wasn't you. But there's a part of me that just feels like whoever it was, Jerry was on his Charles Xavier sending mind vibes. Make sure that when she get this power, boy, it look just like Superman.
Give her the flight. Give her Superman's flight.
She straight up. Yeah, I mean, look, her getting back to like better than full strength, because that's what I see. She's way better than full strength now.
You see that
the role we're on with Ford.
Look for that storm from the satellite. That storm she was causing around the planet. Good Lord.
Yeah, because she'll shut the whole planet down, bro. That's Omega level. You know, Forge. They give Forge a little bit of character development, you know, and like them talking about his native roots. You know, him using that shaman magic, but that magic, I'm pretty positive was some Doctor Strange magic.
Got some circles. Yeah.
I said, hold on. He walked in there with that book. I was like, is that the Book of the Damned? Did he just go get what did he just go get?
Well, that was just sitting on the shelf.
He just had that, bro. He did. He had it the whole time and was holding back. Yeah, I mean, look. That whole thing with the Shi'ar and where they end up with Xavier getting to a point where he's like, I gotta go back. I don't care what's happening out here. I gotta go deal with this. Beautiful. At the same time, you have Storm, who now is in a position where she's like, bro, she gets back to full strength and turns the TV on after she's thinking about just going off. Let's just go off to an island somewhere. You about to go to an island. Oh, you about to go to an island. turned the TV on and got the shock of her life, and it's like, I gotta go be with my people.
Mm-hmm.
So you telling me the leader of the X-Men, Charles Xavier, is like, I'm coming back, and the actual other leader of the X-Men, Storm, is like, oh, I'm coming back. You know what I'm saying? And we about to go do what gotta get done. And there's gonna be some time shenanigans somewhere in here because Forge, like, is clearly too young right now in this joint. We've seen him, and we've seen the older version of him. We know that he built the time machine that basically sent Bishop back.
Mm-hmm.
We know that means he's familiar with Cable, all of that. His knowledge of Charles Xavier, like, there's a lot of directions they can go because they're pulling from so many different stories to do this. But what they're doing right now, I still think is so. Look, we talked about it before, Sin. If there's a thing that you're leading up to that has to be bigger and more threatening than what Thanos was to the MCU, than what Loki could be to the MCU, than even technically what Kang is or could be to the MCU,
right?
It's the Avengers and the X-Men having a clash. It's the Phoenix, right? And they keep showing Phoenix.
Yep, about to say in the
intro.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm like, all right.
That's happening.
And that whole Avengers versus X-Men joint was about getting the Phoenix Force. And I'm gonna tell you something, Jerry. That's got something with the Phoenix in his system, boy. That
the hell of a drug.
Yeah, it is. It is, and he wanted it. He needed it, bro. Yeah, I mean, look, where else do you go? I mean, I don't. There's a lot you can do, right? With Doctor Doom and so forth, like the subtle ways that they're like. Who else could bang with Gladiator besides either Rogue or Captain Marvel?
Yeah,
it's one of them. It's one of them. All right, and I take a Captain Marvel. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's where Rogue got her powers from. So I'll take a Captain Marvel. Let's go. Animate her. Put her in the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Put her in the show and just let her get one of those real good Thanos models.
Yeah, one of them joints.
Just one of those.
Knock him into one of them Shi'ar ships or something.
Yeah, through a Shi'ar ship. And she flies straight through the joint. Like she's supposed to be out. She be battling the Kree. Like that's what we do.
We opened up with Shi'ar, so she should be around there somewhere.
She should be around there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Storm's story really, it just happened so fast. I think that's my only issue with it. And I understand what they're trying to do. Again, we talked about it a little bit last week, Jerry, that like what they're trying to do in like 2 episodes, really 1.5 episodes, because they split the last part of part 1 with the Motendo Mojo episode.
Yeah.
So you're really trying to do it in an episode and a half. You're taking, and even this is really split in half. So you're really only giving it 30 minutes to take something that in the comics took way longer. She was out her powers for way longer. The amount of time she spent with Forge falling in love and having that real love story. I mean, there are people who, for all the people who are familiar with Storm and Black Panther being a married couple until they finally dissolved that thing. And she's had plenty of, she's been with Wolverine and whatever else. But like, people will tell you that love story between her and Forge is like the one for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in and it's out. It's like it's over already. So that kind of sucks because they could have made that a season all on its own. But
I would have been mad.
Giving some backstory to Forge with the adversary. The adversary does not look anything like the adversary looks in the comics. Like the adversary looks much more like the guy in the comics.
Little bird owl demon thing.
So I think, in the comics, I think that depiction would probably be a little problematic. these days.
Yeah, because he's basically like a Native American demon. So he's a man that he looks kind of like a demonoid man that has like Native American like feather and that kind of thing. And so if they'd have done that, it'd have been like, what are y'all doing? But this entire show is themed around birds. Like all of the Shi'ar are basically based on owls. They're based on birds. They all look like birds. You got Death Bird in the joint, and you have the Phoenix flying around and whatever you see in the background, and then you have, really Storm flying around like a bird. You have the adversary who's shaped and looks like a bird throughout the episode. Like it's very heavily themed in that space, that idea of like taking off and flying. It's all tied into like, even in the beginning with Lalandra saying to him, like, the point of being a teacher is so that your students can go off and fly on their own, right? And GR actually call their children like hatchlings. Like they're like, the whole thing is around like birds and taking flight and kind of being able to go off on your own and
okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. So just out of curiosity, like, how do you think it would have gone if? Because I think like I think I could be down for like a whole season of Storm separated from the X-Men to tell that story, or even like a separate show. But like, how do you think like the general audience, like people who aren't familiar with that storyline, like how do you think that they would have handled Storm being off the X-Men without power for an entire season? Because I like a lot of the stuff that I've seen on the internet, like it's just people mad that she lost her powers, period.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
the storytelling has to be there. It has to be entertaining enough, so when those pieces pop back up in an episode here, an episode there, as you're building to it, that you still keep the audience engaged in what's happening. Have their banter, just like it has been, be high quality with what they're discussing and what they're talking about. I think it can absolutely work as long as it's paced well with everything else that's going on, and those conversations between them are still impactful. And I think that payoff at the end with her finally getting her powers back and doing the flight, all that kind of stuff could have been even greater. If you're watching it, take that time to build up and get that storyline and plant those seeds and everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it would all be about how they handle telling the story, because really in 2024, I mean, I'd have to go back and reread those books to see if it really sits and feels the same way. But in 2024, Storm losing her power is much more of an allegory to a people or Black woman like losing her way, like wishing she didn't have to live in her own skin. Like her saying, like, I don't have to, like, I daydream about being human, right? Is the idea of a Black person or a Black woman daydreaming about just being white and not having to think about the things that it means to have to walk outside and be concerned about whether you're going to get pulled over just because you exist, or whether you're, you know what I mean? Like that is really what it is. It's an allegory for that thing. And so if told the right way, right, it is, dare I say, a growth story of Storm from Holly Berry into Angela Bassett. Like, it would, it is her again by the end of her story in this episode, coming to the realization that there is no reason for her to feel like she needs to assimilate. There is no reason for her to daydream about, because the things that she misses about being that goddess, right? About being able to feel the weather, feel the rain, feel those things, right? As you do the kind of things that they might say are very okay, the straightening of your hair or the dyeing of your hair or the, just things that it seems like you're forced to do to assimilate and be accepted, because they will tell you that styles of hair that are just natural for you and your color and to your culture are unacceptable in an office job. It's just against the rules, right? And so you must assimilate in order to feel success, in order to succeed. It's such an allegory for those things that many people, if you're not one of us, you won't know it. You won't feel it. You won't get it until somebody tells you. And if they had done that as a separate story that was its own season, if it was 6 episodes, you know what I mean, or whatever, where they were able to teach that over time, but also managed to find a good way to convey to people who wouldn't automatically get it because they are living it every day, then I think you do it, and you do it well without any pushback. Yeah. Right? Like I think it can work. It could work. Does it move the needle and get the kind of numbers that X-Men as it is getting right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, there just isn't a place for it. It's like Lovecraft Country. Such a great show. Brilliant show. Really just, and more or less on the nose. Like, nah, we're telling you Sundown Town's real thing. We're telling you, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just like HBO's just like, yeah, nah, we're not doing another season of that joint. We're not doing that again. And that's I don't. Could they do it? Yes. Would it be successful? No, it would not be successful.
And I like when I just feel like when you're telling these kind of stories with these kind of IP and like the stakes are so high. I don't know. I mean, I think you always you feel. I mean, to me, like I didn't write nothing. Like these are just things that these were not questions that I asked in the moment, because like in the moment while I was on the show, I was along for the ride, and again, like I think
it's very Cyclops of you.
That all makes sense. That makes sense. Put his hater blockers on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nah, go ahead.
No, I think when you're like in the show and you're doing storyboards, like everything is compartmentalized, and you have to focus on the thing that you're doing. So like, in the episode, I could easily like after I've read the full script, I could easily forget like everything else that happens as I'm focused on like, making my section like really sing. So like I it's just things that I think about, like could that have worked?
I mean, it makes sense, man. I think part of the reason why X-Men as a franchise, as an IP is so successful is because people are not generally interested in hearing or seeing or feeling the plight of other people. They don't care. It's just not, just generally that's where people are. They don't care about other people's story. They don't care about their plight. And so the X-Men does a good job of using a beast, someone who's blue, and oftentimes they make them blue, right? Mystique, Nightcrawler, Beast, whatever.
Yep.
These are people who can't hide what they have, right? Can't hide what they are, can't mask what it is that makes them different, right? And so those characters, along with other people who like what their plights are, like what it is that somebody like a Rogue is dealing with, right? If you look at her, you don't know it. If you look at her, you don't see it. So if you take fan art or whatever of Rogue and you post it next to fan art of Beast, you can draw two very different conclusions and never assume, if you don't know anything about the X-Men, you would never assume that there's anything going on with Rogue other than she got the orange suit and the fresh body. You know what I'm saying, or whatever. You look at Beast and you like, the hell, what
Monster.
happened here?
Yeah.
Right? And like even the non-blue version of Beast with the giant feet and you know what I mean, and
you still
and
gonna
the
be
big
like,
old,
what's up with Cuz? Why your feet so big?
you're still gonna immediately see a difference. You're gonna see a thing. And so much of what the X-Men is about is that story of dealing with what can be seen versus what can't be seen and how we deal with it from both sides, from the inside looking out, from the outside looking in, and then sometimes from the inside looking in, right? And so X-Men is successful because it is very sneaky in getting people to care about things they don't know are the things that they're starting to care about. And so like even in the comments that I've seen about this episode, for real, like I have seen people, like I have seen Black people say, yo, like the allegories between like the very blatant, like the Milky Way ghetto, they like very just out there for you. But when you talk about Xavier being forced by the oppressor to assimilate to their style of life and leave behind all of his culture, all of his people, forget they even exist. You're no longer one of them. The people who have dealt with it and seen it and felt it, they out here on these internet streets and IG and whatever going, yo, it's so crazy how they just did that, and it's so subtle. And there are white males who are going, yo, straight up, suburban white male here, didn't catch that at all. So glad you pointed that out. That's crazy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think
it's always
so.
Really good.
Yeah, like I think that's one of the things. Like at least while I was working on the show for sure, and I know beyond, like the crew for the show is pretty diverse. So you know, like I remember in the in the meetings, you're like talking about this episode and like these scenes in particular with Professor X and like that scene that you're talking about. I think that was my boards, like where they walk down the aisle and then Deathbird shows up. So like we talked a lot about that and like you know, the meaning of the words and like getting it. So you know, like for me, like I could relate, you know what I mean, to the professor in that situation. And I think, you know, that like hopefully some of that stuff comes across in the animation. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely intentional. I mean, I think it's, you know, I'm glad that most of it is like clearly visible, you know, that stuff, and then the stuff with Storm, like all of it is fully intentional. So I'm glad that people are seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that getting back to like having this show hit now, definitely with all of what's happening in the world, but it just reminds me so much of why I enjoyed X-Men reading the comic books as a teenager. Because I remember being in a place where I was like, nah, these aren't just comic books. Like they're really talking about something. Like there are real feelings and issues and things that are tied into what is happening to these people. And I'm invested in what's going on with them. We're talking about a bald white man, right? Who is different from other people, but he's the most powerful person. Like mentally, he could do whatever he wants, but he can't walk. For real. Like he can't walk. But in this episode, guess what he can do? He can walk, right? And they make a point of showing him in the very beginning, showing the wheelchair, the air chair. He don't have wheels on it. I've always called it a wheelchair. That ain't got no wheels, but yeah, the hover chair. Coming across his legs or whatever, right? And then him walking in the suit and him making a point of saying, like, you know, just like how I can walk in this suit, right? But once he gets into what he can do in his mind, when they show up, my man is just walking around, leaning on the desk, teaching class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is no less of a person because he can't physically do some of the things that other people can do or someone else can do. And so you're able to not just see, oh, he's a mutant and he's oppressed because of these abilities that other people can't see, but he's also a disabled individual who people do see that. And that is a thing that he has to deal with in his life, right? And that those are the kinds of stories that are being told and are getting people who otherwise may only see it or recognize it if it's they can't walk or they're black or they're blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing it in other people, right? There is something important about seeing a Scott Summers who, for all intents and purposes, just looks like a regular cis white male who is wearing some cool glasses, right? I don't the ruby quartz glasses, but like Slim can't see color, so he's colorblind. He can't remove his glasses. He can never look his wife in the eye. He can't see his own child. He like the way that he sees the world, the things that we appreciate about the color of Professor X's hover chair. He can't appreciate that. He doesn't see that. The X-Men in blue and gold, we talk about the blue team and the gold team and Storm in the all white versus the black and Wolverine in the brown and yellow versus the blue and yellow. Cyclops can't see none of that, dog. He can't see none of that. And that's what I'm saying. Like there's a thing that he's dealing with, that his ability, his power, the thing that makes him so powerful, the thing that people fear about him is a gift and a curse. And as you read it and you become familiar with the characters, as they introduce you to these characters in the show, they're doing such a really good job of conveying that information to you as a viewer, right? Without all the exposition that you kind of have to go through in the written form in a comic book or whatever, right? Like you can just feel those things and you may not even think it all the way out. Like things that we're talking about on here are probably things that people are only realizing because we're saying them, right? Based on the way that we think about them or have had to deal with them or internalize them. But like, again, Scott's going through it. Right. And they all have their thing. Jubilee might be the most regular of them, and for all intents and purposes, because Gambit even take down to his eyeballs. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have. You see what I'm saying? So like Wolverine, I guess. You know what I mean? Like he just.
Well, so, Wolverine is real funny looking. Like I think people kind of overlook that.
And he only 5'3". I just got to put out there, he's only 5'3".
100%. I'm not a big guy, man. I'm bigger than that guy, man. Bigger than that guy, and it's like I don't think people realize, and they be like, "Yo, Colossus just be throwing that dude. Like he's not that big."
Like I have super strength, and he's tiny. Like it just works.
Yeah, it's again, Colossus like can't activate his power without having to take on a completely different look. You know what I mean? It's that thing. Iceman, same thing. Like he can't activate his power, so to speak, or go into the full mode of it anyway, without having to change what he looks like. You know what I mean? And who he is. So those things that are visual representations of what make us different, you begin to kind of let that stuff go as you find out their stories, and then you begin to feel like, oh, well, he's just like me. He got a baby mama. And he got baby mama drama. And he's just like me, like he's been
his cell phone too.
Never really felt like he had a home, you know what I mean, or whatever. And that's Wolverine. Now he has kind of like a pseudo family, like a foster family, or whatever. Those things about those characters, you really begin to see the human side of them and less of the mutant side of them, and then you begin to kind of be able to apply that to real humanity and like the difference between people that you can visually see don't really matter as much. I just think they're doing a good job of it. And I think that like what happens, this episode is disappointing because it's a follow-up to the last episode, Like the last episode was so crazy and so bananas that this episode feels very subtle. Like it just feels like there's less happening, but you can tell that this is like the intro to the next bit. Like, oh, it's getting ready to go down. Storm coming back, Professor coming back. How Cyclops even going to act?
Sinister's coming back.
Sinister coming back. Probably Apocalypse coming back. Like,
pros, we seeing things, you know. Cable coming back, probably.
He got to.
Yeah.
Right? Does that mean Bishop coming back? We already had Days of Future Past. You know what I'm saying? So like
we did in the original, in the original.
Yeah. Well, in the original show, they never actually fixed the future. I don't know if you remember that. Like Bishop stayed bouncing back and forth trying to fix something.
Mm-hmm. And
he always come back and be like, "Did it work? Did it change?" And Forge be like, "What are you talking about? We still in the Milky Way ghetto.
Still ghetto out here, bro.
It's still ghetto here, bro. Nothing's better. Yeah, man. Look, I like the episode overall. Again, it's hard coming off that high of last week, right? And coming into this, but there are things that are so special that are happening in this that I just think are precursors to what the remainder of the show is going to be. Like this feels like an intro to me. Like we got the first half, we got through 5. This is episode 1 all over again. Like we all right. Let's start over.
Every episode can't carry that level, that episode 5 energy.
Hey,
like
apparently that's what they're about to give us.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's like you need a win, right? When you have an episode like the last one, where you just take such an L. So many people died. So many important people who have always mattered to people or whatever. Like, yo, that's crazy. In this, oh snap, we getting Chuck back. Oh snap, Storm got her powers back. Let's go. It's about to be on. She got the new suit, got the new hair, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk. Like Shawty went off into the desert with Forge and got her groove back. Like
she did. She definitely got it back.
Let's go see what we gonna do. Let's go pop off. So that, and you need that. You have to have that. You need a step, a foundation. And so they got all the way to the top, and now we're just laying a new foundation, right? To go up. So it does excite me. It's a step down from last week, but I don't think it's a bad episode or it's a worse episode.
No.
We kind of reset.
Good episode. We went out super high last week. Like
bro.
Yeah, following that, okay. We can tone it down this week. We destroyed everybody last week. Let's tell some story. Let's lay some groundwork for what's to come, because we know what we got in the tuck with these next 3.
Right. We need some wins. We got some wins. Cool.
Yeah.
We got a couple wins. Now we probably getting ready to go get some losses.
So
that's just what the reality of it is.
Hey, I'm expecting X-Men to start dropping like dominoes. So
man.
Oh, I seen Domino, like, dog, she's out here. She was in that episode. I don't know if she died or not, but she definitely was in that joint. I seen.
Who can tell? Who can tell?
Yeah, I mean, look, I seen Ford. If you watch the episode, like in the background when they walking around, you see Ford. You see the whole X-Force squad, strong guy, but like you see all of them in the pictures in the background. Like they out there, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't catch that.
Oh.
I caught Multiple Man, but I didn't catch him in that episode. I gotta go back.
Multiple Man, and again, multiple man's in that same picture, but we saw Multiple Man on The Notion. I don't know how many times.
Oh, you talking about on episode 4? Yeah. That was one of my scenes. Where they're walking past and like he's got all that stuff on his board. So okay. I'll go back and take a look at it on there.
My man Jerry put all the X-Force squad
fire.
Fire. And we've seen X-Force in live action in Deadpool. They got Mollywop. But I'm gonna tell you right now, Shatterstar was in the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Hey,
was he?
Oh, he's in that joint.
Sure. All right.
Yeah, buddy. I'm ready. Let's go. Listen, I'm super excited about next week's episode. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I have a lot of thoughts. about what it might be, and that's part of what's so exciting.
I can't wait just because of the way that the creators are talking after
They
5. Like,
talk, bro.
Yeah, so okay, y'all on your older stuff, so I like that. Talk that talk. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Yeah. So look, make
Get
sure
my
y'all
boy.
come back next week. Check us out as we talk about episode 7. Jerry, one more time, where the people can find you.
Check me out on Instagram, at the Franchize Art, and just Google me, Jerry Gaylord. You can find me.
That's it. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. Google the guy, and you'll find him. I appreciate y'all tuning in for this episode of Spoiler Boys. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Hey, I will tell y'all, we might be doing a Fallout. We might be doing a Spoiler Boys for Fallout. I'm working on something special. We'll see if it comes to fruition. That's a lot of show to watch in a short period of time. So we'll see what happens.
True.
Sin, you got any last words?
No, I'm just excited to see where we're going with it. Honestly.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
Excellent.
I'm just like you, looking forward to what happens next right now. So
for sure.
Right, so.
All right, Spoiler Boys are out. Toodles and Loos.
Loading snacks.